The pandemic has unfortunately disproportionately hurt women. And this is because of 2 points I can summarize. One is the economic insecurity for women. So the sectors hardest hit by the pandemic were service sectors, retail, hospitality. Those are great sources of employment for women. And also, higher ratio of women are in irregular or temporary positions that are first to go. So the economic insecurity that hit women was harder than that one that hit men. And secondly, the I'd like to point out the time poverty on women's behalf that was very particular to this pandemic. Because of the lockdown, everyone stayed home. And what that did to women is that since women carry out a lot of the unpaid care work at home, childcare and house chores, it put an extra burden on women's back. And unfortunately, the imbalance of these chores did not improve much during the pandemic. So the women are constrained for even more constrained for time for themselves. So these reasons combined, economic insecurity and the time poverty, it's almost unsurprising that the anxiety level and the depression is high on women's part.
But how can it be corrected, Nobuko? I mean, coming out on the other side of the pandemic, once the recovery phase plays out and the pandemic is behind us, how do we look to close the gap?
I think it's important to structurally treat women as a mainstream workers and have their participation in the decision making and not treat them as some kind of fringe workers at the mercy of the pandemic or the mercy of economy. How can we do that? Well, we need to make sure that the gender equality is normalized and baked in every level of the organization, not just at the top, but every level following. So we can look at it from top down, so succession planning that needs to have a certain percentage of women, and also we can look at it bottom up. That is, we need to fix the leaky pipe syndrome that causes us to lose women as they climb up the ladder. So looking at these both directions, we can make sure that there's a voluntary time progressive quota at all levels of our organization to achieve ultimately the gender parity. And this is not rocket science. We just need to hold executives accountable for these targets. And this is how companies like EY would carry out their initiatives towards gender equality.